What happened to Jack Grealish? This is the question we want to find an answer to. So let's just jump into it. Consider subscribing to our channel. It's free and helps us a ton. Thanks. On 5th August 2021, Jack Grealish became the first and thus far the only £100 million acquisition of Manchester City, and at the time the most expensive transfer of an English player. At the time, everyone gawked at the price for a player who was good, excellent even, but did he really warrant a hefty fee like that? A lifelong villain, Grealish, who was born in Birmingham, joined his boyhood club Aston Villa at just the age of 6. He came up through the ranks in Aston Villa's youth setup, and apart from a season-long stint with Notts County in the 2013-14 season, for whom he made his professional debut as an 18-year-old, his whole career was spent in Aston Villa. Over the span of 7 seasons since 2014, he was an integral part of the Aston Villa setup. He made 213 appearances for the club across all competitions since 2013 and was integral to the club's rise back up the ranks after Aston Villa had been relegated from the Premier League in 2016. He was particularly good in the 2018-19 season in the Championship, where he helped Aston Villa get promoted back up via playoffs. He was named the captain of the club in March of 2019 and saw his team through a club record 10 consecutive league wins. His performances earned him a place in the PFA Team of the Year for the 2018-19 Championship season. He had an even bigger impact on the following season despite Aston Villa's torrid time in the Premier League. Grealish was instrumental in Aston Villa's survival in the first season back in the Premier League, and that earned him the 2019-20 Aston Villa Player of the Season award. It was also his most productive season in terms of stats, as he finished the season with 10 goals and 8 assists across all competition. 8 of those goals and 6 of those assists coming in the Premier League. He performed at similarly high level in the following season, helping Villa finish in the mid-table. During his entire stint with Aston Villa, at no point did it feel like he would leave his boyhood club, except in 2018. Aston Villa had failed to earn a promotion back to the Premier League, and Tottenham were very close to signing Grealish. Aston Villa were in a financial hole thanks to their owner at the time. The whole transfer saga is a story for another time, but it suffices to say that Grealish was very close to leaving the club with the allure of not only playing Premier League football but Champions League football, and Tottenham at the time were perennial Premier League contenders under Pochettino, and Aston Villa would have had to sell him because of their own financial troubles. However, a deal couldn't be struck and Grealish stayed put. Not only that, he signed 2 contract extensions during this period that, if seen through to their end, would have kept Grealish at Villa Park till 2025. So when Manchester City came calling in 2021, it was a bit amusing. Aston Villa had not only progressed between 2016, when they were relegated, to 2021 as a mid-table Premier League team, they had new owners since 2018 who had kind of solved their financial issues under their previous owners, and they could now afford to keep their most prized assets, unlike 3 years ago. Grealish was a hot commodity and Villa Player of the Season in 2021, so it was no surprise that bigger clubs would want to acquire his services. But he was at his boyhood club, living the dream. Manchester City, who had come off a great season having won their 3rd Premier League title in the last 4 seasons and finished runners-up in the Champions League, also had other priorities, most importantly a striker, with Aguero leaving the club. At the time, City were in a protracted negotiations to try and woo Harry Kane from Tottenham, and knowing Daniel Levy, the transfer fee was going to be hefty, so it was sort of a surprise City went in for the £100 million Jack Grealish. According to Grealish, it was a tough decision to make. He described his departure as, quote-unquote, one of the toughest decisions I've ever had to make. However, the allure of Champions League football was too much for him to resist. He added, I felt like it was time for me to move on. I've always said how much I wanted to play Champions League football. I couldn't do that at Villa this year. I have come here to win silverware and play in the Champions League, so that is my only focus now. And thus, Grealish became a Man City player. Guardiola got his technically proficient attacking player. But it was also a weird match, as Guardiola was a team-first coach for whom his team setup was everything, while Grealish was seen as someone who was the ultimate individual. Nevertheless, Grealish had been the engine for the Aston Villa team through thick and thin, was being clamoured for in the English men's national team, and was expected to eventually make it as a Manchester City mainstay. 4 years on, and nobody's thinking that anymore. If anything, by every report, Grealish has a foot out the door. Where did it all go wrong? Grealish struggled in the Manchester City setup in the early going. The then 25-year-old won the Premier League with Manchester City in his very first season, and Guardiola praised Grealish's adaptability. But Grealish admitted to finding it difficult to adapt to City. He said, "When I came here, I'll be honest with you, it was so much more difficult than I thought. In my head, I thought I was going to the team sitting top of the league and I was going to get so many goals and assists, and obviously it isn't the case. A lot of teams tend to sit against us, and that wasn't the case at Villa." He finished his first season with 6 goals and 4 assists from 39 appearances across all competitions, which wasn't great for someone playing mostly as a left winger whose primary job was to get in the box and create chances and score goals. So when the 2022-23 season rolled in, everyone was keen to see how the £100 million player deals with this situation. Well, the 2022-23 season was maybe Grealish's best season in his career. Now, the raw goal and assist stats don't show what he contributed to the team, as he finished with only 5 goals and 11 assists across all competition. But he was instrumental in Manchester City winning the Continental treble that season. All his 5 goals came in the Premier League, helping City win the 3rd consecutive Premier League title. But his best form was in the Champions League campaign. He provided the sort of control that Guardiola loved. After a 1-1 draw away to Real Madrid in the first leg of the Champions League semi-finals, it was noted that Grealish had created 35 chances in that season's competition, the highest ever recorded by an English player in a single Champions League campaign. The return leg at home saw Manchester City crush Real Madrid 4-0, and Grealish was the standout performer. Jamie Jackson of The Guardian called his performance scintillating. After the win against Inter in the final of the Champions League, an extremely emotional Jack Grealish declared Pep Guardiola a genius for guiding Manchester City to a treble, and thanked his manager for sticking with him after a difficult first season at the Etihad. His first season travails were mostly forgotten for how good his second season proved to be. He was called only second to Erling Haaland in terms of influence on the club that season. Neil Johnson of BBC Sport commented that Grealish had become quote-unquote almost undroppable for the big games. Grealish himself said, "I feel like one of the main players, and I feel that with playing a lot, it is the fittest I have been, especially since I have been at Manchester City. That comes down to playing a lot of games on the bounce and playing in big games, just making an impact really." Jack Grealish was at the top of the world, and the future looked bright. However, the next 2 seasons, whatever could go wrong for Grealish on and off the pitch, went wrong. Throughout the next 2 seasons, Grealish struggled for fitness and form. Where in the treble-winning season, he had become indispensable. The next 2 seasons, he barely played, especially in the Premier League. Where in the treble season, Grealish played a total of 3,486 minutes across 50 appearances and made 41 starts. The next 2 seasons combined, he played 3,223 minutes, making only 58 appearances and only 37 starts across all competitions. Like in the 2023-24 season, Grealish started only 10 times out of the 20 appearances he made in the Premier League. The next season, he started only 7 times out of the 20 appearances in the Premier League. He struggled for any rhythm and didn't even come close to the performances from the 22-23 season. Grealish's club form affected his international career too, as he was left out of the side that went to Germany for the Euro 2024. when he scored a penalty against Salford City in an 8-0 rout in the third round of the FA Cup on 11th January 2025. It was his first goal for the club in over a year. The writing seemed to be on the wall when he was left out of the squad that went to the revamped FIFA Club World Cup. Where did it all go wrong? From being at the center of City's finest hour, playing every minute of their Champions League final triumph over Inter Milan in Istanbul, playing virtually all of the magnificent 4-0 semi-final victory over Real Madrid and the FA Cup final win against Manchester United, to barely playing for their club, the downfall of Grealish is real. Guardiola hinted at Jack Grealish needing to improve last season. He said, "He's the same player, he has the same manager, and the way we played has not changed. It's been the way he has performed. That's the difference." Players like Doku, Savinho and even Marmoush seem to have overtaken him in the pecking order. It is clear that Grealish hadn't been in the right headspace the last 2 seasons. Last May, while praising his manager, Grealish admitted, "I've had times this season that I've struggled off the pitch. I don't mind saying that, and he's been there for me so much." Some weeks later, he once again referred to his personal issues, mentioning injuries, but then adding, "I also had not a lot, but some stuff that happened off the field. Sometimes people from the outside don't see. They just think we just play football and we are these robots, but we do have a life off the field as well, and sometimes it is difficult to deal with that." Grealish was thought to be alluding, at least partially, to a robbery at his Cheshire residence in December 2023, which occurred while he was away for a match and some of his family members were at home. An incident he had previously called a quote-unquote traumatic experience that left him devastated. The omission from England's Euro 2024 squad left him heartbroken. He said, "I'll be honest, football-wise, it was the most difficult thing I've ever had to deal with in terms of my own career. I was absolutely heartbroken. For myself, now moving forward, I have to just try and use that as motivation going into the season." A person close to him told BBC Sport, "The treatment that he had from England kicked him sideways and made a real difference to his confidence." Another person who worked with him said, "He loves playing for England, and when the team is at a major tournament, it is inescapable, wherever you are in the world. I know he found that hard." Grealish reacted to the omission by organizing his own summer training camp at Juventus's facilities, turning down the chance for extra time off. He was clearly eager to start the season strongly, but despite performing well during the pre-season tour in the United States, he was overshadowed by City's academy product, the Norwegian youngster Bob. Following that, Grealish struggled with form and fitness through the early 2024-25 season. He did make it back to England's interim manager Lee Carsley's squad for international friendlies, but it frustrated Guardiola. Guardiola said at the time, "I'm always pleased for players to go when they are fit, and they haven't struggled for the past 1, 2, 3 or 4 weeks. In 17 days, he did not train once. Jack has had 2 or 3 setbacks in terms of injuries and could not get his rhythm." Grealish subsequently withdrew from the national squad. This probably took even more toll on Grealish's psyche. Others have pointed towards Guardiola coaching the individuality out of Grealish. Former England winger Theo Walcott said, "I see a player who has incredible talent that's been absolutely coached out of him. I just feel he's gone away from his strengths. Everything that is Jack Grealish has been trained out of him." Others deny that Pep coached the creativity out of him. Ex-Villa manager Tim Sherwood said, "He's just got to get on with it. It happens to everyone. He gets into pretty much every other Premier League team. I have no idea what Pep's issue is, but he owes a lot to Pep." The torrid 2024-25 season that was not only hard on Grealish, but the club as a whole may have just been the final nail in Grealish's City career. But is all lost? Grealish is still a supremely talented player. He's also a supremely popular player who shares a special bond with the fan base. Those who knew him at Villa describe him as a confident but grounded young man who always made time for fans and staff, often asking about their families and how they were doing. He was at the forefront of City's treble victory celebration and has endeared himself to the City fan base in ways few people could. While on pitch, opposition fans love to boo and heckle Grealish, and opposition tends to foul him a lot. Off it, he seems to be a genuinely good person with a heart of gold, shown by his many interactions with fans over the years. A recent example of it being the special friendship he struck with a young City fan, Finlay Fisher, who suffered from cerebral palsy, the same condition that ails Grealish's sister. But football being as cutthroat as it is, his popularity wouldn't be enough to keep him at the Etihad. With his 30th birthday approaching, he now faces a significant challenge to revive his career at both club and international level, and to meet the expectations and justify the price tag his talent once commanded. Thank you for watching. Like if you liked it, share if you found it worthy, and subscribe for more content like this. This is Salty Football.